welcome to the D3D4 Football Podcast with me, your host, James Richards. Good morning everyone, welcome back to the D3D4 Football Podcast. It is Sunday the 9th of February 2020, another action-packed weekend of League 1 and 2 action to go through with you. I don't know how everyone feels this morning, but it's pretty windy here where I am. They've called this storm now, I probably haven't got the name right, but it's something like Storm Colin or something, pretty mundane.
Storm Cara.
Cara, yeah, exactly. These names, who names them? They're terrible. They're like, if you're going to name a storm, maybe get something from Greek mythology, not like something from Jeremy Kyle, surely. I don't know.
It's like Storm Caesar.
Storm Caesar, yeah, that's a bit better, though that would probably get people talking about dog food rather than... whoever did that we're going on a tangent already here, but I'm sorry, whoever called a dog food Caesar has done a massive discredit to the proud name of Julius Caesar in history, hasn't he? You can't really escape the link now.
The owner of the company wanted to call it something else, but he got stabbed in the back.
Tu brute, very good, yes. Indeed.
Oh dear.
Right. We started this podcast terribly. In fact, I'm tempted to just start over. Anyway, before we get too mired in terrible puns and our awful knowledge of history is exposed, let's crack on. This pod, as per usual, is sponsored by Man v Fat Football, a great way for men and indeed everyone to lose weight in a social way. You can check them out at manvfatfootball.org. I'm really proud that they chose to sponsor D3D4 Football, and I think it's nice to have a podcast sponsored by something that is generally good for the health. Playing football in a social way and trying to lose weight at the same time. Great stuff, guys. Really appreciate it. We have two new patrons this week, so let me give them their shout-outs, because welcome on board Jack Buckley, an Oxford United fan as well. So
there's another one?
There's my dad's one, so there's at least three of us. So welcome on board, Jack. Really pleased to have you on board. And Christopher Reed, who comes on board as well as a Star Striker patron, so really appreciate that, Chris. Look forward to hearing from you over the coming months at least. And we'll start off this podcast, as we always do, by jumping into the action in League One.
League One.
And I didn't know really where to start this week. I want to start on a positive, though, and I think the main one's got to be Kenny Jackett's 9 straight wins, record-breaking, especially considering, and Chris, we talked about this earlier in the season, didn't we, that he was under huge pressure. At one point, people thought, fans telling us he's got to go, the football's rubbish, he's not progressing this team, and suddenly the faith that the board have shown in him has pushed him up to 5th in the table on this record-winning run, if I can say it.
Yeah, big run, big win yesterday, and I think it's what we said at the time, is that he's a very, very talented manager, and that blip at the start of the season was completely out of the ordinary for him. And fair play to the Pompey board, they've given him time and they're absolutely reaping the rewards now. Some really standout performances yesterday from the likes of Raggett and Curtis. Well impressed, good 2-0 win.
Yeah, and of course, if you look at the last, I think they haven't conceded a single goal in the last 4 league games either. So defensively, those problems at the start of the season where they were a little bit weak at the back, people complaining about the quality of their centre-backs, or the quality of the performances at least, that seems to have solved itself and they look a lot stronger for it. But yeah, excellent stuff. And realistically, I'm looking at Portsmouth and I still believe, like we predicted at the start of the season, that they've got to be, Ed, the team to beat in terms of getting into the automatic promotion places, because they've not lost a single game at home this season.
I completely agree with you on that, and I think you do, like you say, you look at this, how they started the season, there was the concerns, but this team has got, we all know the ability this team has got, and like you say, it is finally starting to show it. So don't just look at them as a playoff team, I say. We should be looking at these as genuine top 2 contenders.
Definitely think that. I just think it's nice to see a manager slightly vindicated, because everyone who listens to this knows that I'm not really keen on sacking managers quickly, because it just doesn't seem right when they're, especially Kenny Jackett, who has progressed Portsmouth since he's been there. He's done quite a good job, I think. Obviously, unlucky to miss out on promotion, but that the lottery of the playoffs is always tricky, losing to Sunderland in the semis last season. bringing us into Sunderland quite nicely, actually, who are just behind Portsmouth at the moment, 2 points behind them, having played a game more, but a very important victory yesterday took them above Ipswich, Ed. And big concerns about Ipswich, which we'll come to in a minute, but Sunderland looking like a really good second half performance, according to quite a few people on Twitter, and it's nice to hear.
It is really nice to hear, and like you say, it's a real improvement in performance. And I like that Chris Maguire is actually one of my favourite players in this division, definitely. I think he's on to double figures now for the season with that goal.
Yeah, he's an impressive player. Yeah.
He's a very impressive player, and he's a big part of what makes this team good. Playing alongside that front three of where you've got people like Lyndon Gooch and Charlie Wyke in there as well. And we all know similar to Portsmouth, we all know the quality the Sunderland side has, and they're starting to show it. I think it's 1 defeat in 11, if I'm right at the top of my head, which is, that's form for a top team anyway. So long may that continue.
Yeah. Parkinson got manager of the month, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. I thought that was nice to see, because obviously he, like Kenny Jackett, took a huge amount of stick. Maybe I think it was more justified with the performances his side were putting in at the time, but certainly turned it around. Made the big decision, as everyone keeps going about moving McGeady out of the team. It appears that has been completely vindicated, because they look a lot more together. They're working hard. I still think, for Sunderland fans will probably expect at some point a bit more quality, but yesterday's win left it late. Big crowd there, I think 32,000+. I mean, for League One, this club,
crazy.
They really shouldn't be at this level based on the size and the stature of the team, but they've got to work their way out of it. They've got a game against Rochdale, so you'd expect them to win that in midweek before they travel to Oxford. And the way Oxford are playing in the last few games, there's an opportunity there for them, I think. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. The big one I'm looking forward to, though, is right at the end of the month when they go to Coventry, or they go to Birmingham to face Coventry. That'll be the one.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, it will be. Coventry, of course, yesterday a 2-1 win. Mr. Cult hero Biamu at it again, leaving it very, very late. It wasn't the most fluid performance from Coventry, not by a long shot, but sometimes I think it's important that you just get the result, Ed, and Coventry have been doing that week in, week out for quite a little time now.
They have. The last defeat in the league, I believe, was the 14th of December, and they got beaten at Shrewsbury. And in that time they picked up a couple of 4-1s, a couple of 0-0s, and then 2 back-to-back 2-1 wins. And obviously had that, which I was at, that real fight against Birmingham, their landlords, in the FA Cup as well, in midweek, which you wondered after 120 minutes whether it might have knocked the energy out of them. But they were still up to this and still able to get the win with Maxime Biamu, the hero. So keep rolling on, Coventry is what I say.
Yeah,
how good a player is Politic becoming for Bolton?
Oh, did you see some of his moves?
Yes.
Yeah.
Fantastic little player.
Signed a new contract as well, hasn't he?
Yeah, and he's working really well with more experienced head of Chris O'Grady.
Yeah.
He's a joy to watch.
Great player. Chris O'Grady as well. So some teams foolishly discarded him, thinking he wasn't going to be good enough. But anyway,
who's that a dig at?
I didn't make the dig this week.
No.
You can't call me negative now.
No, indeed. But I really enjoyed Chris O'Grady's performances at times for Oldham last season. I think, although he's not a goal scorer, but he's a very good hold-up player and
very intelligent footballer.
And got a deserved assist yesterday for all his work that he did at the top end of the pitch. And Dennis Politic, what a player he looks like he'll be. I think Bolton will do well to keep hold of him, especially if they go down. But we'll have to see. I mean, it's almost certain, I think, for Bolton that relegation will happen this season. But you look at them and think, if they're sensible, keep the management team they've got, maybe a rebuild.
I think so, definitely. Yeah.
You do get the feeling that the January transfer window was then building for next season in a sort of sensible manner. They weren't. Some of the signings were stand out, like the likes of Kean Bryan, but a few players coming in that you think can do well at the top end of League Two. Yeah,
I think they are looking at that at the moment. I know that Southend are certainly planning for League Two. They're trying to sign a few players that left Macclesfield. No surprises there at all with the Sol Campbell link, but they again fell to defeat yesterday. A spirited defeat, slightly, you have to say, but against a Blackpool team that really did need the victory. Blackpool, of course, a bit of pressure on Simon Grayson, and I'm not all against that. I think he's a good manager, and he should in the last sort of 2 months have been doing better with the squad he's got. But Nanduie back at it, scoring a brace. Both of you guys really. Do we think Blackpool's season is run? I can't see them make the playoffs, certainly myself, and they're definitely not going to go down. It seems to have sort of fallen into a bit of a damp squid, Eb.
They kind of already, I think, had that kind of triumph with the whole situation off the field this season. So you could argue, regardless of what happens in the league, they've already kind of seeing positive signs of progression anyway, considering with the owners. But in terms of the actual season, I think it's probably right to say that there might be a case where they're just ending up in mid-table this season, which is certainly, I don't think, a bad way to go. They've still got a lot of games in hand on some of those around them. So there's a chance we could see them push into the top half, certainly. But I don't think Blackpool fans should be too disappointed with the season so far and look ahead. And I think next year could be looking at something quite good.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think fan reactions are quite funny, actually. I said to you before the pod, Lincoln, who lost to league leaders in a really good game, actually, on Friday night, lost 1-0 to Rotherham. Fans afterwards, I think there's a couple of tweets that made me laugh, but someone said, if they lose to MK Dons, they're in big trouble. I had a quick look at the table, and I thought, well, you've got 37 points. The relegation...
I'd be impressed. I'd be impressed.
It's still mathematically possible, of course, to get relegated. But
it takes something special.
Oh, it would take a massive drop in form. You've got Tranmere on 22 points. That's a 15-point head start they have. And
is it to do with them losing the last 4 in a row, though? Could that be it?
Possibly.
Because it is 4 defeats in a row now. They're not. They've lost to Ipswich, Portsmouth, yes, Southend, but Rotherham. They played 3 of the top teams in the division in the last 4 games. So. And
they were unlucky to lose. You'd say at least a couple of those.
Yeah, definitely.
I thought they were good for a point, but like I said in my tweet afterwards, that the fine margins at this level this season make the difference. And so for Rotherham, the fine margins were simply an excellent header from Matt Crooks and some brilliant goalkeeping from Daniel Iversen, who's turned out to be probably... I'm trying to think of a better keeper in this division. I'm struggling, especially one who I think will have a brighter future.
He'll go on to big stuff.
Yeah, he will. Any of you guys want to offer a keeper in this division that you think is better?
Oh, I'm trying to think.
No. I think he was arguably the best keeper in League 2 last season. I know I would say that, but seriously,
the best keeper at Craven Cottage in that certain famous FA Cup tie.
Coming up against certain penalties. But I think he was certainly, if he wasn't the best, he was certainly up there, and now he's doing the same in League 1.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I don't see a goalkeeper or remember seeing a goalkeeper as good. There'll be, obviously it's very debatable, isn't it, with goalkeepers, but for someone who is, how old is he now, 21?
22.
And he's having another excellent season, and 22 for a goalkeeper, let's not forget, that's quite young, really.
Really young.
So he's doing a fantastic job. And Rotherham have him to thank for that win, really. He made a fantastic save in the first half, and then stopped a late opportunity with his legs in the second. So massive piece of the jigsaw for Rotherham, and I think overall they looked very, very good. It was an end-to-end game as well, so the fans got their money's worth. Peterborough fans certainly got their money's worth yesterday. I won't dwell on this too long as an Oxford fan, but it did look like 2 teams going in very different directions. Obviously, Oxford had 120 minutes against the Premier League side in midweek, but I don't really think that was an excuse. At the end of the day, Peterborough were just far better than Oxford. Far better.
Only need 10 men as well.
Yeah, exactly. They had 10 men when Thompson was sent off, and I thought it was quite funny. Our kitman got booked. Now, has a
Never seen
kitman...
that.
Yeah, what happened there, please?
Right, so Thompson is walking off the pitch, and the Radio Oxford commentators mentioned that he kicked a bottle in the direction of our bench. That is not why they sparked off. Thompson said something in the general direction of our kitman and Jamie Mackey as he walked past, and it's whatever he said sparked the reaction. Now, the kitman, to be fair, he got up and shouted, But he then held Jamie Mackie back from doing what Jamie Mackie does, and that is being, an idiot sometimes and a wind-up merchant. And so he ended up being peacemaker. I don't really know why he was booked. I thought it was a very harsh booking, but I can't remember ever seeing a Kitman booked in a professional football game before that I've seen.
What does that do if you book a Kitman? Does it mean they can't wash the kit at the weekend?
I don't know.
What does it do?
Well, no. 2 yellow cards means they can't wash the kit.
Who does
It just seems a weird thing to do. Book the Kitman.
Unless you get 5 yellow cards and then they can't wash the kit.
Well, he's our master tactician, so if he gets a second booking, he gets a touchline ban, and that's in big trouble then. What happens if he gets a touchline ban? Do the players have to just run around in their Y-fronts or something?
That's not something I'd like to think about, to be honest.
Well, no, actually, it's a terrifying thought, actually, but, it could be, he's had his warning.
Would they have to tattoo the sponsor onto, like, their chest?
Yeah, yes, indeed.
This is getting weird, guys.
Big implications here.
Yeah, well, no, there are some serious ramifications if a Kitman gets. I mean, lifeblood of the club and all. Big trouble. Anyway, Peterborough went on. Ivan Toney again. He's such a clinical forward. I think Sammy Smolix though deserves sort of the biggest shout here because he just is so good. I think he had 3 assists in this game, something ridiculous like that, setting up Ivan Toney to sort of seal it with the. I think it was a third goal or second goal where it comes right across with a lovely ball right across the edge of the Oxford 6-yard box. And it's clear Oxford missed Tarek Fosu going forward. Shandon Baptiste as well is a big loss. Perhaps not so much for what he was doing this season, but certainly more for the coming years. But it was just a really poor performance from Oxford. Christy Pym did make a couple of good saves, but Peterborough, like you mentioned last week, Ed, about their chairman, Darren McAntony, they are really on the coattails, despite playing one more game than Wickham. And I don't know, do you think realistically Peterborough can be automatic promotion? Because if you look at the teams that they're up against, Coventry, Portsmouth, it's going to be a very tight race.
I'm looking at that game on the 7th of March when they've got Portsmouth at home. And that is a huge one. Absolutely huge. And the games before that, they've got Southend at home, Fleetwood away, come to Burton, and then play Portsmouth. Honestly, we could have something similar to Portsmouth with the winning run they're on, I think, with those, because those are all games that you look at the strength of this team, particularly Sammy Schmodix, who's just, like you say, phenomenal. And I think they are definitely in contention. They're only a point off Wickham at the minute, aren't they?
Yeah,
Wickham have got a game in hand.
Point behind them. I mean, do you remember last season there was a game between Portsmouth and Luton at Kenilworth Road, and I think that has the similar ramifications to this Peterborough Portsmouth game that you're mentioning. I think it's one of those that you just remember and could end up remembering as being such an important game in the context of the season. So we'll have to see how that one pans out. I'm really looking forward to the end of League One season. Not that I want it to end, but in terms of the climax, we've got so many teams so close together. Wickham strong at home. Not convinced though that they'll cling on to automatic promotion, because I think out of all the teams they're probably not the most complete side, though they did make quite light work of struggling Bristol Rovers, Chris, yesterday, and yet again a win for Wickham at home. It's an amazing season if you're a season ticket holder and only go to home games.
I mean, absolutely. I'm really seriously impressed with Wickham this season. Did any of us put them that high up?
I put them in relegation, I have to be honest.
I think we did, didn't we?
I honestly thought it was a struggle. You look at the way they ended last season, and it was a slog. It was a bit of a struggle. But at this, looking at the home results, they have literally only lost the one, and that was against Coventry. They've drawn 3 and won every other game at home this season.
That's brilliant.
Wow, it's ridiculous.
That's brilliant.
39 points from 16 matches at Adams Park.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, Ainsworth is just a superb manager. There is no way around it, because he won't have the resources or the facilities that some of the heavyweights in this league have. And to be sat second at this point in the season, far from writing them off, I think they'll still finish top 6.
I think they should, yeah. I mean, I would be surprised if they didn't finish in the playoffs given their overall season. My concern is just away from home. They have been very underwhelming. They've taken 14 points from 14 games on the road. I mean, in terms of an away table, I think they're sort of lower half. So that has kind of let them down a bit. They do have to go to Doncaster and Coventry in the last throes of the campaign. So there's some potential there for them to struggle. But yeah, like you say, overall, been a fantastic season for Wycombe, and massive credit. Now, we've talked about Portsmouth, obviously beating Tranmere. Let's talk about Tranmere, because they're being cut adrift, no doubt about it. They lost 3-0 at home on Tuesday to Doncaster, who, as we'll come to them in a minute, but I mean, Tranmere really in trouble. Their pitch is terrible.
It's one of the worst I've seen since Blackpool a couple of years ago.
Yeah, it's not good at all. I don't think it's helping them, and it just feels like a little bit like they're doomed already.
It's so negative there. The atmosphere around the place doesn't seem to be great. I mean, that's 5 losses on the bounce now.
Mm-hmm. 1 goal scored in that time.
That's shocking, because we can talk about the pitch. I think I've probably said this on the last podcast. You can use that to your advantage in the relegation scrap, and I don't see them doing that.
No, they're just, they haven't got any. I mean, the last win was in the 21st of December, and that was a 1-0 win at home against AFC Wimbledon. Since then, they've taken just 2 points, and that was against Southend, 0-0 draw at Southend, and that 1-0 draw against Blackpool. It's looking pretty bleak. And in fact, I think the more you look at this table, the more you're looking at it thinking, well, the bottom 3 has already been decided. And
yeah.
Do you look at changing manager? Tranmere?
I think it's too late in the season for that.
And also, I think that's harsh, because Mickey Mellon, he's taken them up twice in quick succession. Yeah. And I think sacking him for me would be pretty unfair, because he has probably done his best in a fairly difficult situation. Both those promotions came in the playoffs, which means it's even harder to build a squad. And obviously they are a prudent club, well-run club, and they won't be just splashing money at the situation.
And I thought they were fortunate to go up last year, and their squad's weaker this season than it was then.
Mm.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, you lose such a key man as Norwood, and I think this has been overstated at times, but certainly makes a massive difference. And obviously, the fans getting a little bit disappointed with the quality that they're watching each week. But again, if they do go down and they keep Mickey Mellon, you feel they've got a good core to do well next season in League Two. I wouldn't be inclined to change it too much. You do worry about like losing mentalities and stuff like that creeping in, but I'm not at all convinced that they need to worry too much. So Tranmere, you probably think will be gone, but like we say, fairly positive that they'll do okay next season. Shrewsbury Town, again another team looking towards next season now. They're mid-table mediocrity, and I think they changed formation, in fairness, against MK Dons after some really dour defensive performances. Saw them lose to Rochdale. Awful they were against Gillingham. 2-2 draw at Fleet, which is creditable because that's a difficult place to go. But the real crux of this is they're not creating many chances, and they're playing far too defensively. And they went to Anfield and they took on Liverpool's children, and they got beaten. I saw the interview with Dave Edwards afterwards, and he looked absolutely crestfallen. I mean, really, felt that they'd let the fans down. It was a dire performance, and I don't know. I mean, credit to there's no doubt that Liverpool have got some of the most talented young players, but still, a professional side, you'd expect them to at least have more of a go than they did. So, some really disgruntled Shrewsbury fans across the week. Like we say, their season is petering out. What do you reckon, Ed? It's people still on the fence, very much on the fence about Sambrick. It's simply because they think it's more of his style, really.
I don't know with Shrewsbury. They rotated quite a lot from that midweek. You look at the teams that played at Liverpool and the one that played yesterday, and you almost feel that one that played Liverpool is stronger. I mean, they changed goalkeeper. Murphy went back in instead of O'Leary. They kept Donald Love out the side. They kept Goldman out the side. They obviously didn't have Wally because of injury as well. And yeah, it's it has been a pretty mediocre season for Shrewsbury. I can't remember them ever really being that
After
far
that
up
Blackpool
the table.
win, I think there was thoughts, they might, they
Potentially,
might have
yeah. But I don't think they've ever really looked that concerned about, or at least looking like they're going to push to that playoff place. So it's just been a case of, if we think Blackpool might be stuck in mid-table for the rest of the season, I think we can probably say Shrewsbury will be.
Oh, they certainly will be. I just think, what will they get next season? Ricketts I certainly think Ricketts can do a lot better with the team he's got in terms of, trying to attack. And I think he did yesterday, but a mistake cost them. And MK Dons, another impressive point on the road for them, because they've been very good under Russell Martin. I have to give them credit. I think they're pretty much safe now. I mean, it's 10-point gap between them and Tranmere. You feel that they are one of the sides down there that, yes, they're still down there, but they're certainly going up. They're upwardly mobile compared to a lot of the teams around them. So I bank on them staying up. They've got, a good run of form at home as well. I think just one defeat in the last 6 or something at home, which is highly impressive considering how poor they were earlier in the season. So we'll have to see how they build going forward under Russell Martin. I think that will be the interesting thing, because he's come in the short term, done very well. I'd like to see how he does, as a manager, first stint as a guy in the dugout, and see how he does going forward, because I think it could be quite an interesting appointment. Certainly has worked, and there was a lot of scepticism about it, but it's certainly done. He's done well. AFC Wimbledon lost at home. They lost at home to Fleetwood. What do you reckon, guys? Are Fleetwood in the playoff mix? I mean, 3 points.
So long as Paddy Madden's there, I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah, because it keeps my prediction alive.
Indeed, I mean they've done all right. I think you look at them and they're a solid team, and I think if you look at the results, actually, the number of draws they've got, particularly sort of since the beginning of December, has been, you could argue, problematic, but it's kept them in touching distance of the playoff places, and now back-to-back wins have just drawn them within 3 points. So,
and a game in hand.
Yeah, and a game in hand. I'm not really convinced that they're going to be better than those teams that are currently in there. That's my only thought with Fleetwood.
I think their home form plays a big part in this, definitely, playing at Highbury Stadium.
With the wind blowing in.
Yeah. They're 6th in the form table for home games, and then away they're 12th in the table for the away performances, which, balances it out. But that home form is certainly one of the best. It's as good as Sunderland's. It's certainly one of the best in the division, and that plays a big part in how well Fleetwood play.
It'll be interesting to see how they do. I mean, they've certainly got goal scorers. You can't deny it. Ched Evans and Paddy Madden will get you goals. Do they have enough quality in that squad to break into the top 6 and remain there? I'm not convinced. I have to say,
I think they'll be an outsider if they do. I think they're the side that I see maybe getting a run towards the end of the season and popping up in there.
What do we think of Doncaster? Because they've been on a good run themselves. Only a couple of defeats really in the last sort of 8 games, something like that. And I think if you look at that last 9 games, I think they've lost 2. They're another side I'm not overly convinced about, because they haven't got the strength and depth of other teams. But they're certainly, they'll be massively disappointed. Ollie Rathbone, by the way, lovely goal for Rochdale yesterday. But for a home team, like trying to get to the playoffs, Doncaster will be bitterly disappointed with that. Ed, your thoughts on Rovers?
Doncaster, I think I'm a little bit more confident with Doncaster than I would be to Fleetwood, particularly because, like you say, with the form they have as well and how they're doing. But I still don't think they've fully replaced Marquis's goals.
No, I mean, they could say massive win in the second, great second half performance at Tranmere in midweek. The loss to Fleetwood on the 1st of February, could be quite an important one, and the defeat against Coventry as well. Went to Sunderland, got a 0-0. I wonder. I think against the top teams they'll struggle, but they're a side that should beat.
Their next 3 are quite favourable. They've got Bolton at home, then away to Gillingham, and then away to Shrewsbury. And if they can pick up 9 points from that, that changes things quite a lot. Obviously, Gillingham are on quite a strong run at the minute. Shrewsbury look takeable. Bolton look beatable as well, especially as they're at home. So don't rule them out of it, certainly is what I'd say.
Do you think Burton, Gillingham 0-0 yesterday? Do you think either of these sides realistically in that playoff race? I know, Gillingham on a good run, but they're 8 points back as it stands.
I probably wouldn't say so. No, I'd be more confident. With Gillingham at the minute because I think they've got some actual more firepower. We are really missing Boyce's goals, and it's shown the last 2 games. And the style still has to change under Lucas Akins. He's not the same kind of player as Liam Boyce. He can score goals. I think he can play as a striker, but we need to be a lot more to feet, a lot less direct with him. And whilst we have got very good wide players, we're lacking that key man through the middle now, and I kind of wonder if we might start to slip away. Obviously got that big one on Tuesday, haven't we?
You got Tuesday.
Oxford at home.
Oh, of course you have, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That will be a fun one, won't it? I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm not so confident as you.
It kind of reminds me, this Gillingham game, I don't know if you remember the one when we played Oxford last season at the Pirelli, when Braither got sent off and it ended up being 0-0.
Yeah, I remember that,
and this Gillingham game yesterday kind of feels the same as that, where not a great deal happened and the red card was probably only really the major talking point.
So can we have... Sorry, go on.
No, there you go.
I was going to say, can we have a midweek podcast to get you two arguing about this game?
If it's how our teams have been playing recently, it could be quite a dull. That was a bit rubbish, wasn't it, Ed? Yeah.
Oh.
It's not been great the last few weeks for either team. I mean, as an Oxford fan, I will always be just enjoying seeing us back at the third tier and playing good football. There was a debate on Twitter about Oxford saying that if we don't make the playoffs, it's an utter disaster. I was like,
really?
Yeah, I'm like, nah, it's not. It's not an utter disaster.
It's
I've
a
seen
shame.
utter disaster. 2006 was a disaster. This is just, a bit of a mid-table finish. I wouldn't even say considering how bad we were last season, I wouldn't even say I'm that disappointed. Yeah, we've got a good squad, but we've lost 2 good players in the January window. We've had injury problems to our strikers who are so important.
Was it because of the flying start? Was that part of the issue as well? Because of how well Oxford were doing earlier on in the season.
Well, yeah, I mean, we had a sort of a rather uninspiring start, really, and then we went on that great run. But all great runs are so hard. I mean, that's the difference. You're trying to keep that consistency is very, very hard. So, but yeah, I think I'd be fairly happy with a mid-table finish. I wouldn't be the best, wouldn't be the worst, but I'd certainly accept it because it's progress. And I suppose that's all clubs really can do is keep making good progress. I mean, if we have a look at the league table, we've got Rotherham, brilliant, 56 points from 30 games top. Wickham still clinging on to second, a point ahead of Peterborough. They do have a game in hand as well. Peterborough, Coventry, Portsmouth and Sunderland making up the playoff places. Ipswich dropping outside. Their record against top teams is ridiculously bad. And that is what's causing them problems and has seen them lose 3 in a row now. Doncaster, Fleetwood, Oxford are those teams still within touching distance. You'd probably say Burton, it's a little bit of an ask. Gillingham as well. At the bottom, Bolton, Southend, Tranmere, looking more and more likely to be the 3 that go down. Tranmere, depends if Wimbledon keeps struggling because they've got a 6-point cushion at the moment on the relegation places Wimbledon do, so we'll see. But everyone else, I think, can probably feel that they're safe this season, looking at how the form of those bottom 3 teams are. But it can change, and we'll have to keep an eye on it just in case it does, because this is League One football, and things are never always, well, I say never always, that's a bit of a misnomer, but yeah, they're never straightforward. Always. Excellent. Right, we'll be back for League 2 right after this.
What does Man v Fat mean to you?
Lose weight and enjoy a game of football.
Mental health, camaraderie.
Friends, football, fat loss.
Reverse my diabetes.
Big, sweaty, fun.
Life-changing football.
Better and healthy lifestyle.
Good competitive sport.
Teamwork, banter and weight loss. Create a winning mentality to lose fat.
Hard work regime and football.
It means sustainable weight loss.
Don't let the boys down and don't let yourself down.
Man v Fat. Weigh, play, lose, win.
League 2.
Right, League 2. Colchester, guys, come on. That was some victory, because I looked at this at the start of the weekend. I thought this will be the game. I was looking at this one and the Northampton one potentially to be the most important matches. What a victory, though. 3-0 up at half-time. Credit to the 1,037 Plymouth fans who made that 10-hour round trip. Some of them going back as we record this, I'm sure. But disappointing result for them. But Colchester, that's the way you bounce back, Ed.
That is exactly the way you bounce back. It's absolutely phenomenal. And it really, I want to make a note to Theo Robinson, who I think has been one of the best finishers in this division recently at times. I can't remember exactly how many goals he's got, but he's always in that right place. And when you've got people like Norris or Noble underperforming, you could normally rely on Robinson to take their place in that forward position. And he showed it today. I think he got 2 in this game.
He should have had a hat-trick, though, shouldn't he?
He could have. The amount of one-on-ones he couldn't finish was ridiculous.
Yeah, 10 goals he scored this season in the league.
Yep. Well, there you go, producing the numbers.
Norris has got 8. I mean, they've got quite a few players. They've spread the goals well. Norris has got 8 goals, 5 for Frank Noble. Loads of players who are on 2. Harry Pell's got 3 since coming back. I mean, if he'd had a full season, you'd expect him to be sort of closer to double figures than that. But yeah, they've had some top performances this season. I think Tom Eastman and Luke Proser, 2 brilliant professionals, great centre backs, and they don't get much credit, but they've done a job week in, week out this season. The fact they've kept Omar Sawamni out of the team, much to his frustration, I'm sure, but they're probably one of the best centre back pairings at this level and deserve a lot of credit. And another clean sheet. Very impressed with that performance from. Talking
about centre backs from a Plymouth perspective, what I think yesterday showed is how vital Gary Sawyer is to that back 3.
Yeah,
they missed him with suspension, and whilst there are certainly some good defenders in that Plymouth squad, Sawyer really is a leader in that back line, and that really showed today. They do still have Canavan, who's a good defender as well, but missing Gary Sawyer, I think, played a real impact in that result. And the amount of possession and chances that Colchester produced.
Yeah. I mean, I think was it Joshua Grant playing at the back instead?
Yes.
He's done quite well this season, Joshua Grant. But he does sometimes. They sometimes use him sort of in front of the back 3. Arguably, he's been more effective there. But it was just a below par performance all round from Plymouth. Good to see Callum McFadzean back in the lineup after an injury. He's been a big miss. I think George Cooper's done really well, but not quite as good as a left wing back as McFadzean. So him being back and fit will help. Byron Moore's done a superb job covering at right wing back. I think that can't be understated either. Port Vale, a 1-0 win against Northampton. That is huge for them. It pushes them right into that playoff mix. I think they're only outside it. What, a goal difference is it?
Goal difference, yeah. Do you know that's the first time Northampton lost at home in any competition since early October.
That's unbelievable. And they, to be fair, they had to rely on Scott Brown, and he's a great goalkeeper. If you haven't heard our 30 minutes with interview with him, go check it out. You can find it on our podcast feed. But I mean, he's a great bloke, and he saved them in this one with a couple of really good stops. But when you do that, when you have a goalkeeper that you can rely on, it just takes one moment, and they got theirs, and they get the victory, which pushes them right to the cusp of those playoff places. And with Cheltenham, Northampton obviously losing to Port Vale, it's really going to be a tight race. I mean, you look at the likes of Colchester, Plymouth, Exeter, Crewe, and Swindon. Those teams, I think, will make it into the playoffs. I mean, certainly think Swindon will go up automatically. Probably Crewe will join them, though. There's still a big competition and fight for automatic promotion going on at this level. So really exciting end to the season. But those 2 playoff places, I think, are the ones that are up for grabs. There's several teams looking at, and Port Vale certainly can get in there. One team that I think, what's happened to their season is Forest Green. I mean, dreadful. Another defeat. I suppose we can't be that surprised because I said, about the data suggested they were well overperforming at the start of the campaign, but they are really struggling. And, Mark Cooper is probably not enjoying this at all. 4 straight defeats at the New Law. They play Port Vale in midweek as well. That'll be absolutely massive. If Port Vale go there and win and condemn Forest Green to a 5th defeat on the bounce at home, it'll be a massive could be a massive result in the context of the season. I don't know. What do you think of this, Chris? Because Forest Green, we do like what they do. We like the way they play, but they've only won once. I think it's 7 matches now.
Yeah, it's disappointing. You know, I have a lot of admiration for Forest Green in the way that they run as a club. Not the sort of green credentials, but the sustainable from a financial perspective necessarily. I think they're really good with that, and they're investing in their players squad well, and they've invested in young players well. And I really don't know where it's gone wrong for them.
I think they're really missing Joseph Mills.
Yeah.
Joseph Mills, to me, is one of the best left-sided players in the whole division.
I think they're also missing his counterpart on the other side,
Liam
Shepherd,
indeed. But Joseph Mills, you know, sometimes Forest Green just put him on the left-hand side and put everyone else on the side. Because he can cover everywhere up that left-hand side. He's easily one of the best players in the division on his day.
Yeah.
And I think he's played 5 games in the last 2 months and a half, which is just, to your club captain and what you'd consider to possibly be your best player, that's a big loss. And like you say with Shepherd as well, they did bring in Chris Stokes from Stevenage, who's obviously an ex-player.
Not the same.
Not the same credentials as Mills. You know, they do still have players like Rawson. I do like Winchester and Adams in midfield. Still, to me, can't find that proper goal scorer, because Josh March, whilst he's doing fine, he's not producing the numbers I really fully want from them. And then, yeah, I think particularly Joseph Mills being without him, that's really making an impact on his team. And he's going to be out for a while longer as well.
Yeah, and I think as well as his clear quality, is that older, experienced head, I think, must help in what is a young squad.
Yeah, I mean, though, he's not old, is he? How old is he? 26?
He's 30. Joseph
30.
Mills, he's 30.
Is he really? Blimey.
Yeah, he's 30.
I remember him. It
must be the ponytail. He looks younger than that.
It was about 8 years ago that he was playing at Oldham.
Yeah, my goodness. I mean, he is a big loss. I mean, great play from McDonald though to wind his way in and smash in what proved to be the decisive goal in this one. Walsall needed that because they'd had 3 straight defeats. They're going to be mid-table, no doubt about that. Can't see them troubling the top 7 this season, but at least Walsall have moved their campaign slightly away from that negative start, and I think if you've got Darryl Clark as your manager and you give him time, they're going to be a bit of a force in the coming seasons. Maybe not next year, we'll see.
He's talking about making a promotion push next year, is what he's already talking about. There is a chance. They need to still improve in areas. They need a proper right-sided player.
Yeah, they do. They need someone on that right side that can be a foil for Wes McDonald. And also, I'd argue they need someone who can put the ball in the net a little bit more regularly than they've seen this season.
I agree
Strikers
with that.
They've had good, one of the highest shots to on-target ratio, but in terms of actually getting them past the goalkeeper and scoring, it's been pretty poor. Stuart McCall, his return to Bradford, Ed, it was.
Oh, did he even leave?
Oh. The story, I love this story. So, I'm not sure I've got you familiar you guys are. So, Luke Hendry, Grimsby right back. Back in 2018, he was on loan at Bradford from, I think it was Burnley. McCall was manager at the time, and McCall wanted to bring him in permanently to start making a push up the Football League. But the director above him would not let him do it, wouldn't let him go ahead with it. And Hendry recently gave an interview to one of Bradford's main newspapers about saying if McCall had been given complete free control in that previous spell, he reckoned Bradford would be much higher in the Football League, not just in League Two, but in the higher division. And wouldn't you know it, guess who gets equaliser for Grimsby at the weekend to deny him a win? Luke Hendry.
Yeah, I saw that he didn't celebrate as well, which is credit because he had 2,500 Grimsby fans behind that goal.
Oh, fantastic.
They do support their team well, and I think...
fantastic support.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Ian Holloway, he certainly brought the buzz back to Grimsby. They will be already looking for next season. I mean, it's been a pretty average campaign from their perspective, but, good to see them sort of having a bit of fun again. Swindon drew 1-1 at Carlisle. Hallam Hope's been excellent since going there. Swindon probably with a better team. I mean, they especially at the start of the game, Carlisle had to ride their luck somewhat, but fair play, Chris Beach. He's instilled something, a bit of character in this Carlisle side. They've been impressing me in the recent weeks, and to get a point against league leaders, I think he'll be delighted, because he said before this game that he's interested to see how his side play as a marker of where they need to get to, and so to get a point, he'll be pretty pleased. Second place, Crewe beat Oldham. Chris, you were there. 1-0 up. I've already spoken to you about this. Very frustrating. But I mean, Zeus again.
Oh, God, it might be the worst piece of goalkeeping I've ever seen. Full stop.
I'm sure there's
definitely up there.
It's if you haven't, the listeners haven't seen it yet, go and find it. He somehow throws it into his own net from the simplest of saves.
He spoons it over his shoulder.
Yeah, it was a frustrating day, because I thought first half it was a bit cagey. Crewe were the better side, but you expect Crewe to be the better side. They're playing good football this season. We came out, we got an early lead in the second half, and then Crewe got a goal. Again, not unexpected. We know how good Crewe are at coming from behind. And then we just decided to sit back on them. We decided to play for the draw. From the 70th minute, Zeus was time wasting. The ball was coming to his hands and he was jumping on it, and the fans were shouting, attack, attack, attack. But still, we were slowing play down, to an embarrassing degree. Sat back on Crewe, and they got a late goal. Again, I think the goalkeeper should have done better. But Crewe kept plucking away when we were sort of playing quite negative football. So, it was a fair result.
Yeah, Crewe, the comeback kings, aren't they? But I mean, this is the maturity that some of these youngsters are starting to develop, because last season they would shrink and they'd get despondent when they went behind. They have not done that at all this season. And to go with those two wins you had, you'd expect a bit more positivity, but again,
Yeah, absolutely.
With the campaign, like you said, the campaign's pretty much done for Oldham, so just go for it, really.
Well, that's the frustrating thing. It felt like, we were playing for a draw in a game that could either keep us up at the end of the season or maybe, sneak a playoff spot. It's not going to do that. I don't think. I think we'd have to do incredibly poorly to go down now, with the way Stevenage and Morecambe are playing. And it would take something seriously special to go up. And actually, if that up's going to happen, you've got to be a bit more expansive against teams like Crewe and just go for it.
Yeah, well, you're nothing to lose. I think that's
exactly. And that's the frustrating thing to see for me, especially on the back of two very positive games.
Two excellent performances indeed. Newport, they lost 1-0 at home to Cambridge. Cambridge is it Bonner who is in
Bonner,
there?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's making a little shout.
What is it with caretaker managers and flying starts? Everyone seems to do it.
I don't know.
Every time a club brings in a caretaker
given...
manager, they get the job, and then it just goes back to, what it was.
They get given it permanently, and they're rubbish. Yeah. That seems to be.
I don't get it. It seems to happen every time.
I don't know. They've been linked with the Brighton under-23s manager, I think, as well. I saw.
Names passed me by for him, but yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, I'd love to see Tisdale go there, or to go somewhere where I think he'd probably think it's going to be a difficult one. But we'll keep an eye on the manager situation at Cambridge. Obviously, again, another team whose season is spent. Morecambe 1-1 draw with Mansfield. Great end to this game, and an important point for Morecambe. Mansfield's car crash season continues. Leyton Orient a 1-1 draw with Macclesfield, who just do not know when to quit. These Silkmen certainly deserve to stay up. I hope the off-the-field issues don't take that out of their hands, because they've been absolutely superb. Salford and Crawley 0-0. Crawley will take that against big spending Salford. They went there on the back of a decent run and keeping another clean sheet. So defensively, certainly improving since John Yems arrived, and I give him full credit for that, because it was a difficult run they were on before he got there. In fact, they hadn't had a clean sheet for ages until he got that one in his first game against Stevenage. Scunthorpe 1-0 win over Cheltenham. Massive result considering the Paul Hurst situation and all the off the field stuff that they'd gone through. Russ Wilcox getting his first win in front of the home crowd as well. So, but let's end the pod looking at Exeter City, because they beat Stevenage, and I think the moment that sums up Stevenage's season quite aptly is right here. They equalise and then they concede literally straight away. And, that is Stevenage 2019-20 for me.
It's been a dire season for them, hasn't it? It's
dreadful.
I mean, from that first game against Salford, live on TV, you knew they were going to be in some trouble. And they've lived up to expectation in that. What disappoints me is I don't see a fight from them at all.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Kemp's goal, this youngster on loan from West Ham, Dan Kemp hit that a treat, and they haven't had goals like that all season. I mean, they've been terrible going forward.
But this is trying to do what they did a little bit, fortunately, last season with Elias Chair. And they need more bulk in that squad. They need 4 or 5 good players, not just one.
You look at it though at the start of the season. I was looking at the team and I think, obviously Cuthbert injured, and that's a big loss. But Nugent was an improving player. Perrott came back, but he's had injury problems. Guthrie obviously scored lots of goals, but he's gone off to Bradford. I look at this team and I think it's solid, but there's nothing that excites, and I think that is the problem. It's going to cost them. It could cost them so severely. I mean, they'll be hoping Macclesfield. I mean, I don't suppose anyone really hopes that anything bad happens to Macclesfield, but in terms of saving their season now, there's a 5-point gap, and Morecambe have been pretty dreadful this season, to be honest, in the games that I've seen them play. So
I think the transfers though to Morecambe will save them. Those new signings have really made a telling impact, and Derek Adams has got them fighting enough, not necessarily playing brilliant, but I mean they could have beaten Mansfield. Jordan Stewart had a chance, Morecambe obviously, and they could have won that game, and the gap could have, they could have moved level with Macclesfield and points and really left Stevenage in a really, really bad situation. So they could be thankful for that.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, really. Yeah, I mean 22 points from 32 games, but they've scored 22 goals in 32 games, and that's the problem, isn't it? 22. Is anyone in the Football League scored less than Stevenage?
I'm just having a look now.
How many goals has Owen Doyle got now?
Bolton, he's got 23. Bolton scored 23 in League One.
Bolton played half the season with kids. The first quarter. I mean,
you got Watford and Norwich in the Premier League who scored 24, but no, I can't see anyone scoring with lower than that.
No, but what's so frustrating for them as well is I did a clean sheet stat. They were in the clean sheet, like some of the most clean sheets in the division. I mean, it's not a defensive problem for them. Goals against 41.
I mean, that's not outrageous.
No, it's mid-table.
Yeah.
I mean, to put it into context, Port Vale, who are on the cusp of the playoffs, have conceded 38. So Stevenage, who are bottom of the league, have conceded just, I think, 3 more goals than a side who could potentially be in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's bang mid-table, that.
Ridiculous. I mean, it's not like, Morecambe, 54 goals that they've conceded. Southend probably have conceded more goals than everyone else in this division combined. I mean, they've been
72.
72. Jeez, I mean, that's terrible, isn't it?
72.
72 goals conceded.
Jesus Christ.
And there's still 15 games left to play.
When was the last time a team conceded more than 100 in a season?
That's a good question. There'll be.
That'll take some research.
Yeah.
Oh, there's your homework, Ed.
Yeah,
oh boy.
Straight onto Wiki. Look at the old league tables. They are very useful. Wikipedia, by the way. What a website. I mean, I know it's not 100% accurate, but actually, if you want to go look at old league tables and summaries of seasons, it's really good.
Yeah,
I've had a sudden thought. It wouldn't have been. Do you remember that Derby team in 2008, the Premier League one?
The one that conceded
the one got 1 win.
Let's have a look.
Could be them. I don't know, but that'd be something to look up. I'm sure someone will know it. But I've got to say, Mansfield have conceded 51. Mansfield Town have conceded 10 more than Stevenage.
Derby conceded 89 that season.
9. That's still bad.
Yeah,
they only scored 20. Jesus.
Rubbish. Absolute rubbish. I mean, but there you go. So, Stevenage season summed up in one moment. Exeter getting a win that gives them a 3-point cushion, albeit playing 1 game more than Plymouth. But, important to get the points on the board rather than the games in hand, because at the moment it's going to be An absolutely brilliant end to the campaign. Swindon sitting top of the table, 60 points from 32 games. They obviously have that 6-point gap between themselves and Plymouth, though they have played 2 games more, so that could be decisive. Crewe and Exeter making up the automatic promotion places, with Plymouth and Colchester 4th and 5th respectively. Northampton and Cheltenham currently in the last 2 playoff spots. Cheltenham level on points though with both Bradford and Port Vale, so their goal difference keeping them there as it stands. Forest Green dropping to 10th, not in good form at all. Salford in 11th. And Crawley in the top half of the table, which is a massive nod to John Yems. He's done excellent work there. At the bottom, like we say, Stevenage 22 points from 32 games. 5 points adrift of second bottom Morecambe, who will just be glad that only one go down this season, because do they realistically close that 5-point gap on Mansfield? I can't see it. So Stevenage's only hope really could be what happens to Macclesfield. Guys, it's been excellent again in what has been a very blustery morning here in south of England. I don't know.
It is in the north as well. It's all in the Midlands. In the north though.
And the Midlands.
Oh, we've got good representation.
Blustery all over.
This pod, haven't we? We've got a representative in every corner of the country. This is really good. So hope you've enjoyed listening to it. Bit random at times today, but quite
starting off with a Julius Caesar pun.
Yeah, and I think if anyone can never remember a Kitman being booked, please get back to me.
Oh, please, I want to know that.
I do want to know what the ramifications are of a red card for a Kitman. Is it in the rules anywhere? If you're listening and you're from the EFL, or the FA, let us know what happens if a Kitman gets.
And I'd like to know the last team to concede 100 was. I'm going to have a look for that. I'm going to find that out.
I know. I'm pretty sure in 2000, 2001, Oxford conceded 100, but I'm sure another team has done that since. At least I really hope they have. But until next week, guys, as we all go off to search on the internet for random football facts, we'll leave you with that.
I'm going to have some breakfast. Don't know about you.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm just Wikipedia. Anyway, we'll end this pod there. Thanks, guys, for listening.